This show is brought to you by Township Liberation. They're a fantastic organization who are just trying to help people build some grassroots activism, teach you how to nullify yourselves from the state through building coalitions locally. They happen to write a book called The Revival of Common Sense by Thomas Decentralized. You can find this on Amazon. They have physical copies and audiobooks of this amazing read, 76 pages. You can get through it in a day. They also do workshops on X Spaces every Tuesday at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, and also on Thursday nights, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, where they talk about these exact things that I'm speaking of at this moment: grassroots activism, building coalitions, nullifying yourselves from the state. I love these guys so much. Thank you for the sponsor. You can find them on X at Town Liberation, at Town Liberation, at Town Liberation. Follow them, get the books, get the workshops. Now let's get to the show. Welcome to the Buds and Reality Show, the #1 Liberty podcast out of Detroit. I'm Shaun Collins, the guy with a lot to say. And we have a repeat guest. We do this show every year, Mr. Mike Welch from Highland Paranormal Research. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, my friend? Long time no see. How you been?
Man, I've been good, man. You been all right?
Wonderful. Just working a lot and just doing my thing and living life. So yeah, I'm happy and things are good.
That's amazing to hear. It's always great to see you. You know, just to give you guys a little history about Mike and I've known this dude since like getting alcohol poisoning in high school days.
Knee high
That's how
to a
long we go back.
long time, man. About 20 years, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, probably longer than that.
To be more than that
I'm,
because
I'm 43 now.
yeah, it's
And I've
more
known
than
you
that.
since I was what, 16, 17. So like, yeah, we're like at 25, 26 years at
Yep.
least. Man,
Yeah,
God, where'd the time go, dude?
we're OGs now, dude. We are
Oh, yeah.
official
Look at it.
OGs.
There's gray. You got gray. We're
Oh
old.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
man,
all
balding
great.
and shit. Like, holy cow, what happened?
Yeah,
Damn,
it's fast, man. Time goes by fast,
it
man.
really does.
Craziest thing ever. I remember my mom, growing up, she'd tell me, slow down, kid. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. I'm gonna do whatever I want. And now I'm in my mid 40s going, I understand what she
I
meant.
should have slowed down. Like, life
Slow
happens,
down.
comes at you fast, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's
Oh my
insanity.
God.
But dude, we do this. This is our yearly thing for, Halloween, the spooky shit.
Yes,
It's
sir.
great. You know, you do the Highland Paranormal Research. It's not just a clever name.
No.
You are a paranormal investigator friend of mine. So
Yes,
it's
sir.
amazing we get to do this every year for Halloween. I really appreciate your time and
I,
such.
I look forward to it every year, and it's something that, yeah, I really enjoy doing. And, yeah, I look forward to many other years to come to do this, like right around the Halloween spooky season and, continue on with the good thing. So if it's not broke, let's not fix it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And crazy story, you guys. So last year, after we did our spooky show for the year or for Halloween or whatever, uh, my wife and I, Mrs. Buds, met up with you and your girl for
Yep.
a paranormal investigation in Heartland, Michigan.
Yes, sir. And it still breaks my heart to this day. I
That was,
was
yes.
it broke my heart, man. It really, I was so geeked and I was so looking forward to like, I mean, we did get together and we did get to investigate the cemetery and, do some spooky stuff and walk around and do some video recording and that kind of thing. And then, the cherry on the top was the Heartland Music Hall. You know, we were
Yes.
going to go in there. I had everything set up with the gentleman who was there. We were allowed access. We had like 3 or 4 hours to go in there and like turn off the lights. He was going to leave the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, okay, we all pull in because it's right next door to the cemetery. We all pull in. I'm like, okay, he's got a couple minutes, blah, blah, blah. And I'm reaching out to him via text. And I'm waiting. And my dad's there, of course,
Yep.
Papa Spooky.
Papa Spooky. I love it.
He's looking forward to it as well. So we're all excited. We're all geeked. And this is going to be like your guys' first, like, real, you know, paranormal investigation with paranormal
The
investigators.
only one. It wasn't
The
just the
only
first,
one,
it's
right?
the only
Right.
one for now.
Exactly. Because if you remember, like we were going to do the live stream from Fort, what was it? Fort, oh God, we talked about it. I forget what it was called. Anyway, we're talking
Talking
about doing
about
the
the
live.
first year when you went to Jackson State
Yeah.
Penitentiary.
Yes, that's the
Oh,
one.
that's when I got really sick and I
That's
couldn't
right.
go.
You got super
I was
ill.
in the
You're in the
hospital.
hospital. Oh, it was
Yes.
horrible, dude. So yeah, So I don't know if it's just in the cards, like when we get together to do paranormal investigations, like just it just wasn't meant to be. I don't know what the case is, but however, during the Heartland investigation, I'm sitting there and all of a sudden the guy gets a hold of me, what, like 30, 40 minutes later. He's like, I'm all the way in Livonia. He's like, my best friend's in the hospital, not doing well, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to have to cancel. And I'm like, well, dude, I was like, I had friends drive from Detroit. We've had this plan for like a month and a half, it was all set to go. And long story short, we had to leave with our tail between our legs, after our initial, investigation because
Yep.
I had it all planned out. Cemetery, this, and then the Heartland Music Hall. And yeah, we didn't get to do the music hall, which I've already done, a couple times, which is it's an amazing place. Heartland in general is an amazing place to go investigate. You have the library, the Heartland Music Hall, the cemetery. It's old, it's haunted. It's a lot of fun. So I was really looking forward to it, and unfortunately, we weren't able to do it. So
I'll tell you what though, when because we met up kind of early, before we were actually supposed to go into the music hall,
we
and
did,
we went in and went through the Heartland Cemetery. And I can't
correct.
remember the name of the gadget you gave me. It was this little handheld thing. What was that? I can't remember
That
the.
was that was the SB11 Spirit Box.
Yes. Yes,
Yes,
that's right. And you told me to like go around and we split ways, you and your girl and your dad went this way and me and my wife
right.
went the other way. And you're like, just go with this thing and start talking to these grave sites.
Yeah, mention
And so,
names.
yes. And
Yeah.
we did, we said their names, and asked them why they were there and whatever.
Hmm.
That thing picked up some stuff, dude. Like it was weird. And her and I looking at each other going like, shit,
Well,
dude. Like
it's
this is
crazy
wild.
when like you get like say for example like James comes through the SB11 Spirit Box and you're standing in front of a gravestone. It's James, Morris or whatever the case may be. You know
Right.
what I mean, or vice versa. So no, that's one of my favorite pieces of equipment. It started off with the SB7, which is still around today, which works just as good as the SB11. But the only difference is that the SB11 has two different frequencies on it now, to where you can pick up on AM and FM and run them both simultaneously as
Okay.
one. So you have a better chance of maybe picking up something, through AM and FM frequencies. So no, it's one of my favorite pieces of equipment. We also ran with the uh, what was it? The digital recorder, and then I had my thermal with me, my night vision camera.
Okay.
And of course, probably my favorite piece of equipment, honestly, if you have a newer phone, you have everything on your phone. You have digital recorders, you have cameras, you can even get thermal apps and stuff for your phone now. You know, uh, SLS, spectral light systems. Like you can do all that stuff with your phone now if it's more advanced. So, like, I use my phone and take these pictures probably more than I do with like my old school digital cameras and stuff, which I still love because it just holds a dear place in my heart. But
Right.
yeah,
Nostalgia.
nostalgia, right? Give me a 8 megapixel, Sony from like 1999. You know what I mean? Like they just take great grainy pictures. So, but
That's
no,
all
that was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again. We'll have to set something up to where like we won't get canceled on. You know what I mean?
right.
Yeah, I would
My
love for
health
you
won't try to kill me or anything like that.
and right.
None of
Yeah, that
those
would be
crazy things.
fantastic. Oh my gosh, it was always something, man.
But dude, you have been on some interesting investigations since last year.
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
Um,
I
let's talk.
started off.
Let's talk about some of those,
All
man.
right.
Where did you go? What did you get into?
Well, I went back to Heartland. Okay, and the Cromaine. Yeah, I went back to
Okay.
the Cromaine Library, which surprisingly enough is one of those places where it's very non-ominous from the outside. It just looks like a basic library. It's kind of, it's been redone, it's newer, but the library itself is very old. So like the guts are old, you know what I mean? And it has a lot of history. And truth be told, it's like the first time I went there, at that time, I'd been to maybe like 30 or 40 places in my life. At that time, I'd captured more evidence and it was one of the more scary places I'd ever been. And I didn't think that from a library. It was still being used. There's people downstairs checking out books and using, copy machines and doing this, that, and the other thing. And there was more poltergeist and like audible activity than I've ever heard, you know, and it was just it was frightening. And it wasn't as bad the second time I went, in terms of like what we captured the first time, but it was still there. You know what I mean? So whatever it is that is there, it's been there a long time, and continues to live there. I know for sure there's a little boy there, but there's also a very, very disgruntled older man who resides in those walls. So that being said, it's a very spooky place. I don't know if it's right across the road from the cemetery, if that's why, or if just the grounds themselves, because it's been sitting on a giant plot of land, and it's kind of set back in the woods a little bit, and it's kind of just off the beaten path. But yeah, it's a terrifying place. It really is. If you hit it on the right spot, the right night, like it's yeah, it'll send chills down your spine for sure.
Now, because it's a library, do you think it has anything to do with like some old history books that might
You
be
know what?
there or something like
There
that?
were so many things that like can play a part in terms of like uh residual haunts. Okay. Residual is just like picture like a VHS or a tape recorder, and you just hit play and it just repeats itself over and over and over again. So say if like a gentleman walked into a house and took those same steps every single day, well, after he died and he's still here, he's going to do the same thing that he did every single day. So, that's like a residual haunt. So its imprint is always there. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
same spot walking through that door, the same spot going to his car, whatever the case may be. So there's certain things that hold a lot of that kind of energy. Limestone, porous wood. Say if I was to bleed on a piece of wood, you know what I mean? That
Okay.
blood's still going to be there even though you clean it up. That holds energy and that holds, life force, if you will.
Yes.
So you got these big places, from the 1800s, 1900s. You can't even imagine how many people and how much thoughts and memories and emotions have ran through that place over 100, 200 years. You know what I mean? And a lot of that stuff is stuck there. Or maybe it was this little boy's favorite place to go. You know what I mean? So even in the afterlife, he wants to go to what was comfortable and what was familiar. You know what I mean? So that's why he resides there and still stays there. Or even with a disgruntled old man or whatever it is. There's a reason why he was there. He worked there for many, 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 many years. You know? So that's just kind of like my perspective of it. I just think that, there's so many things that hold energy. We're just giant balls of energy. We're
Yes.
just, this is just flesh and bones. But technically, we're just energy, you know? And where's that go when you die? So,
Interesting. Interesting.
yeah,
Now,
man.
you bring up a disgruntled old man. I consider myself a disgruntled old man. So, like,
I'm, I'm
what
getting
kind of
there.
get off
I'm
my
getting
lawn? You know what I'm saying? Like,
there.
leave me alone. But
Damn kids. Like,
yeah, them
get
damn
off my
kids.
lawn.
Yeah,
Yeah, get
all
off
that
my lawn, you
stuff.
little bastards. Yeah.
But what did something happen? Like, how did you know that there was a disgruntled old man there? Like, did something jump out at you? Did something grab you? Did something like, sometimes it's just a brush on the ear or a touch on the chin or something
Right.
like that. Like, what happened?
It wasn't even physical. It was the voice that we got. And I'm talking about a disembodied voice that was so malevolent. It was like throaty and gurgly and had like just so much force to it. Like, get out. You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
just pissed off, angry. And it happened more than once. I'm not saying necessarily he said get out, but I mean like when he spoke with like power and tone.
Did you
You know
pick
what I
any
mean?
of this up on your equipment?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was running my Spectre digital recorder. I had my dad over in the corner running digital recorders. We had cameras going. Uh, those they're cat balls. They're cat toys technically, but they light up. They're motion censored. I had those laid out all over the place, which of course they would go off. But it was just again there was nothing physical. Nobody was touched or pulled. We also did something called the Estes method. I don't know if you've heard of that or not.
Oh, let's talk about that.
So what you do during the Estes method, you blindfold yourself and you put on earphones. Okay. Well, another person is running a digital recorder or an SB11 or SB7 spirit box, so the voices can come through. So what you're supposed to do is just listen, like white noise. Okay. And if you get something that comes through there, you're using that. So like one person is asking questions and you can be like, eyes closed, you can't see or hear anything. And you'd be like, Adam, James in the library or whatever else. So you can't hear the questions she's asking or he's asking. So if they're relevant to like what she's asking, that's the spirit coming through and telling you like, my name is Mike, and or she's saying like, hey, Michael Welch is here and he's doing this. Can you tell me like where he's sitting? In a chair, you know, and I'll say in a chair, you know what I mean? But I can't
Right.
hear what she's asking. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a sensory deprivation kind of experiment that people have used for like many years, and it's really quite cool. So you're blindfolded, you can't hear anything. They're asking questions. Well, you're answering the questions that they're asking that you cannot hear. I know it's kind of a lot to take in, but like, yeah. So that's
Okay.
called the essence method.
Interesting.
So yeah,
Interesting.
we did that there too, which was pretty cool.
Now, you go from that and you bring up a child, like a little boy.
Yeah,
I remember, does this happen a lot? Where you run into children on your investigations? Because in past shows, I remember we've done two of these now,
right.
and you have spoken of children, in cemeteries or whatever investigation you're on that speak to you. And you actually talked to one. I remember, I believe in Highland,
Yeah.
Michigan, at a cemetery.
And this is so cool that you just brought this up. It's so ironic that you just brought this up. So me and Ben Goldman from Afterlife Road Productions, the one I did the film with and stuff a couple years ago,
Yes.
good friend of mine. We communicate and collaborate quite often. We went out Thursday to East Highland and West Highland Cemetery. He was in the Waterford area. He was dog sitting, as a matter of fact. And he's like, hey, he's like, I'm in the area. I know you live here locally. He's like, what do you think about going to where we did the interview for the film that he made and just do some little investigating and that kind of thing? Okay. So he remembers me telling him the story of Bartman, who everybody called Batman. He was a young child who I went there about 4 years ago and played hide and go seek with. Remember?
Wow.
And yeah,
So
so
crazy.
we went there, right? And 4 years ago when I went there by myself. It was like a cold November evening. I was just wanted to go, cemetery walking, as a tourist, if you will. And I saw this gravestone, and it was a young kid, and his gravestone looks like, the Batman insignia. And he's got a bunch of toys and Batman figures and all this other stuff out in front of a cemetery. So I sit down with my digital recorder and I just start asking questions and talk to him because there's a picture of him also on the gravestone itself. And he was a young, like maybe 4 or 5 year old kid. He was young. So obviously it breaks your heart, but again, it's like you want to communicate with this little boy. And so I sit down and start asking questions. I'm like, you want to play hide and go seek? And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right. So you got to let me know if I'm getting warmer or colder. Okay. Let me know when I'm close, warmer or colder. And digital recorders running the whole 9 yards. And I sit there and I brought him this Steve Osgood rookie card and I put it next to his grave because he was a Red Wing fan too. It
Okay.
was in plastic and stuff. So I just kind of set it there, and talked to him a little bit more. And then I left. So I go back home and I go over my digital recorder and audio evidence and this kind of thing. And it gets to the point to where I'm like, okay, you got to let me know if I'm warmer or colder. Right. And I'm sitting there listening, my headphones on. So it's like real crisp and real clear. And you hear a little boy say, warmer. And it was obviously a tiny child letting me know that I was getting closer to him during hide and go seek. So warmer. Obviously, heart sunk, goosebumps everywhere. Was not expecting it whatsoever. I've gone back a couple times since then. And one of the times was last Thursday with Ben Goldman. So he remembers the story that I just told you. He's like, hey, let's go to that, and start asking questions, right? I was like, okay. So I got my phone going. I sit down and start asking questions like, hey, buddy, like, do you remember me? That kind of thing. I'm like, we played hide and go seek and blah, blah, blah. Digital recorder's going. He's like, Ben comes in. He says, I have a really good idea. He's like, if we play hide and go seek, he's like, I got these dowsing rods. Now, I don't know if you know what dowsing rods are, but you could find gold and water and stuff when you're the ones that you hold real still and
Oh,
they'll
nice.
move
Okay.
themselves. Okay. So he's like, I got these dowsing rods in my backpack. He's like, what you can do, you can play hide and go seek. And I'll ask him, I'll count to 10 and ask him, be like, do you know where Mike is hiding? And if he does know, the dowsing rods will move toward where I am. That kind of thing. So I'm like, all right. So I'm like, all right, Bartman, I'm going to go hide. And the count of three, I'm going to go. And there happens to be like some bushes like back behind his gravestone, right?
Right.
So I walk over there and I'm like, I'm gonna go hide now. All right, we're playing hide and go seek. So I go and hide and I'm kind of like peeking around the bushes. So Ben sits there. He's like, all right, at the count of 10, he's like, I want you to use these rods and show me where Mike is hiding. So he counts down from 10 to 1 and it sits there for a second. Well, the right one goes like this first, which wasn't the way I was going. I was on the right. And all of a sudden, both rods were like, whoop, right toward me. So I'm looking at Ben and him and I are like whispering to or mouthing to each other, like, oh my God, like what the fuck? So we're like, okay, good job, buddy. You found me. I'm like, I'm not very good at this game. So like maybe 30 feet just to the left back of Ben was like a tree. So I went back there and hid and did the same process again. Ben counts down from 10, holding the dowsing rods, and gets to 1. And like within a second, both dowsing rods were boom, went right to me. And I was like, holy cow. And him and I are both again in like shock and awe. Can't believe this just happened. But like we felt like we were playing hide and go seek with, the little dude.
Right.
So children in general, like we've been to a lot of places. I told you I went with Ben Goldman again to a place called Evan Starr's Chalice, and we had a lot of little children voices. Even in sanitariums, which is really weird. We went to Northville Sanitarium and
Right.
stuff like that, psychiatric hospitals and things,
Yeah.
children's voices, and it's just what I feel is because they were so young and they had so much life to live and they're just lost in this state of flux that they don't know where to go and they do want the attention and they do want to be heard and seen because they're fucking children. You know what I
Right.
mean? So even in the afterlife, right? Even in the afterlife, if you reach out to them and try to talk to them, and this kind of they're probably excited as can be, like, oh my god, somebody wants to talk to me and communicate with me and play with me. You know what I mean? So you do get like a lot more children come through because they're like a dog or a cat who's happy to see you when you come through the door. You know what I
Right.
mean? Oh my god, there's somebody here to see me. So where you get a lot of the older spirits are like, fuck it, I've been here, done that. I've been dead since 1850. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm old and I'm grumpy. It's one way of looking at it.
Now, going back to the child in the library, what was that child's vibe like in the library you were at?
He, I felt, was being held there against his will. That's my opinion. The disgruntled old man with a big, mean voice, I think, kind of controlled him. That's my opinion. He didn't want him to communicate with me. He was telling him, no, don't do this, don't do that. You know, stay behind me. Don't make yourself seen or known. You know what I mean? He was kind of like, I feel like, just my opinion, I just feel like that little boy was being told by an adult ghost, don't communicate with him, don't do any of this stuff. Although he did come through, but he was like, it was almost like a sorrow. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not supposed to be talking to you because the big old man, the scary man isn't supposed to know. Like that kind of thing. So it was kind of like it was uncomfortable.
Wow. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
dude. So when you come across this stuff, like, people, you talk about the old guy, but the children thing, like, children don't just die. Like,
No,
I mean, it does happen. It's
it
unfortunate,
does.
whatever, but like,
Right.
is there any inklings of like, were these children like murdered, or did they have a cancer, or did a car accident, whatever it may be? Like,
Sure.
have you ever found out, like, or have they ever told you like why they were dead as a child or anything? Have you come across anything like that?
Um, well, when you stem back to like the 1800s, mid 1800s, things like that, you had a lot of like smallpox, measles, mumps, rubella, things like that, where like we didn't have the medicine that we do today. If you were a child and you got sick during that time, I mean, it was pretty much a wrap. There was a lot of children who died in that era from infection, from lack of medical accessibility, if you will. Um, and even, parents and elderly, the older people, they just didn't have access to vaccines and medicines, stuff like that. So you see a lot of gravestones, even in like West Highland Cemetery or East Highland Cemetery, of young children, 5 years old, 4 years old, six, whatever the case may be. But you see the time that they had passed away was like in the 1850s, 1860s, 1870s. Well, you kind of put two and two together and you're like, well, that was probably like you know, some kind of infectious disease, a rubella, a smallpox, whatever the case may be, because that was very common back then. Now you go to a gravestone like the one I had just mentioned with Bartman, it doesn't say how, when, or why he died. I'm thinking it was complications with maybe a cancer or something like that. I don't quote me, I don't know. But like usually those are the cases. It's very seldom a freak accident in terms of like a car accident or something. It's usually health related, would be my guess. You know
Right.
what I mean? It was just before their time, and he didn't know what was going on, or she didn't know what was going on, and didn't know that they were sick, and it just kind of happened, which is even more heart wrenching. You know what I mean? Because they're just trying
Right.
to be kids, trying to live their life, and trying to be happy, and don't realize that they've got a disease that they don't know they're going to die from. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's very true. But like you watch a lot of scary movies and stuff, and when there's dead people involved, it's like a lot of it has to do with unfinished business.
Exactly. And
Like
and and
you
and
get
us
that
alike.
vibe?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And us alike. I feel like a lot of the spirits and a lot of the ghosts that are trapped here on this world have a lot of unfinished business. They can't move on to the next level or go to that spiritual realm or heaven or hell or wherever it may be until they can conclusively finish what they started or reach out and tell somebody how they died or whatever the case. If they were murdered and you can't find the murderer, you know what I mean? They're stuck here. And again, state of flux. They're somewhere in between both realms. Heaven, hell, and you're right here. So I just think that plays true with both children and whatever age ghosts.
Right on. Right on.
Yep.
Now, what other investigations have you done since we saw each other last year?
Well, again, I did the Evan Stars Chalice. Went back to the Cromaine Library. I've been doing a lot because fall season to me, like this is always like my busy season.
Right.
I do a lot of cemeteries. I love cemeteries. I don't know why. Like I'm a cemetery tourist is what I call it. A lot of people find them scary and like it's kind of macabre, but like I find them relaxing and therapeutic. I really do. I've gone to the Linden Cemetery recently, which is just old and just it gives you that vibe of just like it was actually cool too because like when I went, it was like a kind of a foggy night, and it just kind of set that whole vibe off like the beginning of a horror movie, So there's like a little smog over the gravestones and that kind of thing. I also went back to the Heartland, not Heartland. No, it was the Heartland Cemetery.
Okay.
It's got an old Catholic church there, and it's
Yes.
beautiful. Actually, I sent you a couple of pictures
Yep.
with the church in the background with the gravestones. That's the Heartland Cemetery.
Okay.
So that place, it's a beautiful, beautiful cemetery, but it's a small, quaint little church, and it's kind of off the beaten path, kind of set back in the woods, like I was telling you. And then there was also a foster care facility. There was a church behind it, and I forget the name of the church now, but it's a small, tiny little foster care facility, and right next to it, this is in the White Lake area,
Okay.
is this tiny little church. It was built in like 1849. So I rubbed elbows with like the owners of it and that kind of thing, and I was able to go in there. And I didn't do a whole lot of investigating. It was more of just like a walkthrough. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna get back and hold with them and see what I can do in terms of actually getting to go in there for a night with all my equipment and that kind of thing. Because that place, this old cobblestone church, it just reeks of like just eeriness. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's got a story to tell. It's got a story to tell, and I'd love to hear it.
Do churches have a story to tell in general?
I think so. Even new churches. You know what I mean? Um, I think there's a very, very fine line between religion and haunting and scariness. You know what I mean? Like it's almost one and the same. In my opinion, I think like churches and priests and reverends and sermons and that whole religion, whether it be Christian, Mormon, whatever, Catholic, there's always history and actually biblical texts of ghosts and spirits. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, angels and
And, re-
demons.
and, and,
It's a
res-
thing.
and resurrection and resurrection. So it's
Yeah.
always life and death. You know what I mean? So I think there's a fine line. And I think it all plays a part in one of itself. You know what I mean? So I do think that, even like I said, even the new churches, old churches, whatever religion, whatever Catholicism, whatever it may be, I do think it's a fine line.
Oh man, because I remember being a child, and I grew up Southern Baptist, and there was a
Okay.
Southern Baptist church in Milford, you know, and not that it was haunted or anything, but like there everything like the church and all the services were upstairs, right? And
Sure.
then like the fellowship and all the Bible studies and Sunday schools and all that were kind of in the basement area. Well, I remember, you turned off the lights, in the basement, and being a kid, you run
Run
upstairs
up
as
the
fast as
stairs.
you could because
Yeah.
whatever was down there, you had to get the hell up out of there, get out of that
Yep.
basement.
And
And
then,
I remember that, but I remember feeling like very eerie. And not that the church is bad. I mean, I'm a
no,
Bible,
no, no, no.
I
Right.
I'm borderline thumper at this point, but like,
Right.
you turning off the lights in the basement of the church when you're a kid,
Just
and you
starts
know
running up
about
the
angels
stairs.
and demons, you're like, they're coming to get me, and you got to run
Yeah, man.
upstairs and get up out of there. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and that's so funny too, because it's like you mentioned that, but like you watch a lot of these television shows, your ghost hunters, your whatever it may be. Okay. They do a lot of churches. Okay. They investigate a lot of churches. There's something scary and haunting about a church. It's architecture, it's history, it's just what has been. You know what I mean? Like even going to the HVCA this week, you look at the building. Does that not look haunted?
Right.
I mean, it does. It looks haunted. And it's an old church. It's got a bell tower, and it's very Victorian. You know what I mean? It just reeks of like, man, I bet you that place is packed full of spirits. You know what I mean? And truth be told, like 9 out of 10 times, it's just a very warm, inviting place. But like, think again, most churches built in the 1800s, built in the early 1900s, they're old. They smell of must, and they have creaky floors, and they have squeaky doors. So it's just like one of those things where it just kind of coincides with the paranormal. You know what I mean? So
I feel like when it comes to churches, I think demons surround churches
I
because
think they do play a
they
part.
want to go after the Bible believing Christians and try to snatch them up. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Like the
sure.
demons are very relevant in the church because they don't want people believing in something else besides them or whatever it
Right.
may be. You know what I mean? Not to get all like churchy sermony on
No,
you,
no, no. Yeah.
but
There,
like yeah, it's churches are surrounded by demons just because they don't want people following Christ.
exactly.
That's why
Exactly.
there's exorcisms and shit like that,
Oh yeah, they're the
and what
defense. They're
because
literally the defense. They
and
try to
most
like,
yes,
yeah, they try
most
to like
exorcisms,
defy you from actually going into church and believing and all this other stuff. Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
you look at history and actual exorcisms in history, and most of those people that had like major exorcisms happen to them were
Hmm.
like hardcore Bible believing Christians because the
Oh,
demons
absolutely.
inside them were like, oh no, we're not, you don't get to go do that or whatever. And it's nothing, it's a powerful thing. And they made movies about it and stuff like that. You
Oh
see,
yeah.
based on a true story. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
like and almost every one of them are based on a true story because they can't really like how do you say it? Like prophesize and use, say, real, let's say, Christian context, if you will, without like getting blasphemy. They
Right.
you can't say this, you can't do that. So a lot of it's like kind of just mixed up and done. But like the exorcism of Emily Rose or the exorcism of I think Blair or whatever it is. But like a lot of these, yeah, they're based on true stories, but they've been doctored because they can't bring church into something that is so wicked and evil. You know what I mean?
You brought up Emily Rose. Let me tell you something about that movie, my dog. That movie scared the fuck out of me, like straight up, dude. Like I slept with the lights on
No.
that night. I saw it in the theaters, straight up. I
Oh,
went and
did
saw
you?
that movie in the theaters, and there was one scene that really fucked with my head big time.
Probably
And
when she was crawling on the ceiling.
yeah, she was upside down, dude, and her head was all turned
Yeah,
around and shit. Look at
that was
my arms are standing
yeah,
up right now, and I
that
was like,
was those
"Whoa,
are the
dude,
years
this
where
is
like during the
crazy."
movies, like even like the Ring and stuff, like people were contorting their bodies and like coming out of TVs and like moving in different directions that like the body shouldn't move. And she was up on the ceiling, like doing this kind of thing. And like, oh dude, that kind of fucked me up too. That was a scary
Yeah.
moment for me.
Movies don't really do that to me. They just don't. I've
Yeah,
never, besides when I was little, you get scared of, Freddy and Jason and,
sure.
Michael Myers and guys like that or whatever. But
Right.
like as an adult, like I was in my mid-20s when Emily Rose come out.
You're like,
And
that
like
messed with you, bro.
the bitch was crawling on the ceiling upside down, and I was like, no, 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 no,
Uh-huh.
no.
Uh-huh.
I believe in that stuff. Like this is
Right.
crazy. And I
Yep.
probably slept with my lights on in my bedroom for a week straight. I swear
I
to
believe
God.
it. I believe it. See, I love those kind of movies because like I do believe in that kind of stuff, and I know they're based on like, actual events. Same thing with like Haunting in Connecticut, things along those lines. The Blair Witch Project, which is like based on actual events. That kind of
Yes.
stuff that's scary to me. American Haunting, which is like about the Bell Witch ghost in Tennessee. That stuff is real. There's history. There's hundreds of years of history about the Bell Witch or the Blair Witch and stuff like that. And stuff still happens to this day. People go down there just for that reason to investigate the Bell Witch caves or the Bell Mansion or the Bell House. I'm sorry. And I do believe in that kind of stuff. Like it's just that to me is more scary than blood, guts, and gore. It's the
Right.
poltergeist activity, the scary stuff, the things that happen to normal people like you and me. Well, I wouldn't say normal, but you know what I mean.
Who's normal?
Nothing I do is normal, but just regular Joes who just go to work minding their own business, and then all of a sudden they accidentally bring home a haunted object, and all of a sudden their whole life's upside down. You know what I mean? They're being possessed. They're bleeding from their eyes. They're hanging from walls and speaking in tongues. Like that shit happens, man. You know what I mean?
It does happen. I'll tell you a story. You brought up the Northville, the sanitarium earlier. There's
Mm-hmm.
tunnels underneath there.
Oh, I know. I've been there. Yeah.
Tunnels. And I've been to the tunnels in high school. In high school, we
Okay.
broke into the tunnels, because you had to break in there. Those things were
Oh,
like,
you did.
Fort Knox pretty much or whatever. But a teenager who has a will to do something is going to find a way to do it. Bless his
Exactly.
heart.
So will a 27-year-old.
But dude, like we got in there, right? And it was very eerie because there was candles lit in there.
Was it really?
Fuck yeah, there was, dude.
What?
Yeah, there was candles
Oh,
lit
wow.
in the tunnels, and there was people in there too. Now we didn't get far enough to see the people or hear,
Yeah,
or
I
we heard them.
wouldn't
That's
have.
why we got the hell out of there.
Fuck
But
yeah.
we heard them talking, but they weren't talking. They were either speaking in a foreign language
Chanting.
or in tongues, one or the
They're
other.
chanting.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a chant, It was kind of like Kalima, and the
Right, right.
fucking
Raiders of the
Indiana
Lost Ark
Jones,
shit.
you know what
Right,
I'm
yeah.
saying? And as soon as we heard out, the candles are lit, and we heard that and they're chanting whatever, we're like, no, we're getting the fuck up
That's
out of here.
fucked up,
We
dude.
boogied up out of there. But yeah, that was probably 1997 ish.
Okay.
I don't know, somewhere in there.
Right.
And there's a bunch of
That's
us,
insane.
teenage buffoons, going in there
Right.
with the
Urban
tunnels and
exploring and
things
got
going on.
more.
No, there was people in there chanting and talking and
Yeah,
talking.
man.
It
Yeah,
was,
you're not. Urban
it was,
exploring and you bit off more than you could chew in that point. Like I would have got
oh
the hell out of
yeah.
there too. And I'm not scared of like a lot of things, but like if I saw something, once I saw the candles lit, bro, I'd be like, no, like we're going out because I went to the same tunnels with an ex of mine, and we got down there, and I got about maybe 100 feet deep, but there's so much broken glass, and it was dark, and like so many metal prods and things that could poke you, and you could get lockjaw. I just wasn't messing with it. I'm like, all right, we explored deep enough, but we were in the basement of what would be the admission center of the building, and we went there, and that place, dude, obviously, like when you hear the word urban exploring, you go into a place and it's absolutely the ceilings are falling off, the paint's peeling off because it's original lead paint, the tile's broken, everything's in disarray. There's just piles of debris everywhere. And I was actually able, and I don't know if I should say this or not, but I was actually able to grab like there was filing cabinets, okay, with a lot of people's like records and like activity and prognosis or prognoses, if you will, on like their behavioral issues and things like that, and they're just piles of them. They were all over the place.
You took
And
them up out of there?
yeah, in
Did you bring
manila,
them to your
manila
house?
envelopes. Yeah, they're in my house right now.
It's
I
fucking
could probably
crazy.
grab them now. Yeah. I probably shouldn't have done it. They're in my closet. Like But anyway,
They're in your
there's like
house now, dude.
in my house. Yeah, they're in my house. Behavioral issues and like what they ate and this kind of thing and why she's in uh like lockdown right now, that kind of thing. Like
Okay.
and like signed by doctors and like real, so I got like a manila envelope like this thick filled with all kinds of like documented people who had been there and that kind of thing because I wanted every place that I go, and I know it's kind of frowned upon by the paranormal community and stuff like that. I kind of want like a little bit of memorabilia, So like I went to Eloise Asylum. Well, I've been there a couple, two, three, four times, whatever the case may be. But like there was a part of the foundation that had broken off. So I took like a piece of brick, that had fallen off from like the basement, and it's up on a shelf, display shelf in my hallway, a piece of a cemetery stone that broke off in Gangon Cemetery, which is one of the most haunted cemeteries in Michigan. You know what I mean? I wanted a piece and like some memorabilia, knowing that I had been there. I took that, and again, slap me in the hand. I probably shouldn't do it, but like I'd like to take a little piece or trinkets, if you will, to, you know, remind myself, hey, this is from Eloise, or this is from Gangon Cemetery, or this is from, so and so. I just think it's just my thing. I probably shouldn't do it.
You just
I
like
got
bringing the spirits into your house.
I do. And another thing is it's really crazy is because obviously I collect a lot of like horror and macabre and scary stuff, as you can see behind me, masks and toys and blah blah blah. So I just recently got into like murderbilia.
Oh,
Yeah. So there's this place called oh, hold on a second. I've got it right here. Oh God, I forget what it's called. I don't have it right here. But anyway, you could buy like memorabilia online from like serial killers, if you will.
wow.
So I started getting like letters that they were getting writ to in prison and, personal effects and Bible pages and things like that I've gotten a shadow box in my hallway as well. Everyone from uh you may know as the Green River Killer. Uh I mean, I'm not gonna say names, but I've got a lot of stuff that, probably shouldn't have, but
Gotcha.
I started getting into that. So fortunately, I haven't had anything happen in my house since I started collecting all those things. But yeah, between all the artifacts that I've brought home and the sage and the cleansing that I've done and that kind of stuff, and now murderbilia, I'm kind of asking for
Nope.
it.
Oh man, you are way more brave than I. I'm not bringing any of that shit home with me. No way,
Right.
no how. I don't want that stuff in my house
Right.
just because. Whoa. But
Yep.
now I want you to take us on a journey on your most terrifying investigation and tell us why it was the most terrifying investigation.
All right. I'm not going to say it was the most terrifying, but it was like the most active, haunting experience that I've had as a paranormal investigator. And that'd probably be the Doherty Hotel in Clare, Michigan. This place is known for its, I mean, it's probably top five meccas in Michigan in terms of just haunts. If you ever heard of the Purple Gang,
Mm-hmm.
so they used to stay there, and there was multiple murders there. But mind you, this place is old as balls. It just reeks of just like. Do you remember American Horror Story Hotel?
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that. Not as big, obviously, which is I believe the Cecil Hotel, but again, um, it reminds me of that. Now, I took my dad there and my stepmom Ann. Remember Ann? I
Yep.
took her there for my dad's birthday, I believe it was, and we drove out to Clare, Michigan. Went to Cops and Donuts, had some donuts, that kind of thing, and then it's right across the road. Well,
You
we went
say
in there and it was
cops and
like,
donuts?
yeah, the place is called Cops and Donuts. Yeah, it's flipping awesome. And check this out. The insignia, like the main sign, is a pig. Yeah, yeah, I know. Ironic, right? You can go in there and there's like a little setup. There's a little setup you can like hold yourself behind bars and make yourself like you look like you're in jail. But I'll
That's
tell
some
you
of the
what,
funniest shit ever.
I had a bacon maple glazed donut about the size of my face, this big, dude, and it was the greatest thing I've ever had
Wow.
in my life. Oh, it was fantastic. Bacon, like fresh, crispy bacon, maple glaze, pumped full of like all kinds of custard. I don't even know what the hell it was. It was like 9,257 calories. It was fan fucking tastic.
It was
So
9,000 calories of delicious.
it really wasn't 9,000, but you know what I mean. Yeah, the Clear Hotel, man. It was or the Doherty. I'm sorry, the Doherty Hotel. We ended up going in there, not knowing. We're thinking, okay, the place is going to be busy. We had the whole fucking place to ourselves, the whole place. So I went up to the front desk. I'm like, hi, my name's Mike Welch. I called you guys earlier, Highland Paranormal Research. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, the Paranormal Research Group. I'm like, yeah. So he's like, where do you want to stay? I'm like, the scariest room available. So it's like room 217. It was Mama Doherty's room. I stayed there with my ex, that kind of thing, and Dad and Ann stayed in the room, right next door. Anyway, I think it was third floor. So we had the not like I'm not exaggerating. There wasn't a soul other than the workers in that place. We had full run of the place, like 12 hours of just like hallways, tunnels, basements, attics, dumbwaiter access. Like we had everything. And I'm setting up cameras on like each floor. I'm doing walkthroughs. We're doing digital recorder sessions in like the hot spots. I've got one person on the first floor, one person on the second floor, me on the third, trying to just spread it out as much as possible. We're all exploring the basement together. It wasn't like jump scare haunt scary. It was just like there was a lot of activity all at the same time, and it was just continuously all night long. Like it was just all the time. Like I couldn't walk 30 feet without going, holy shit, what the fuck was that? What is this? Like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like it was just all the time.
By
So
activity, what do you mean? Like what kind of activity was happening?
visual, audio, physical. My dad's shirt was tugged. I heard chanting. I heard coughing. And now mind you, this place burnt down like several years ago. And I was like right across from the room, and there's a guy like hacking his lungs up and a girl talking to him, and there's nobody in the room. Nobody in the room. Absolutely nobody. And the
Wow.
guy, you can hear like struggling for breath. And she says, you're going to be okay. And you go to the room, and there's absolutely nobody there. Like nobody. I mean, it was so clean and crisp. It was just unbelievable. And that kind of stuff happened regularly in this place. It was just all the time. So that to me is like probably my favorite place to ever. And in terms of scary haunts, I mean, obviously Northville Psychiatric Hospital was one of them. Eloise kind of scared the shit out of me, just because Eloise has a history and it has a story to tell, and it's already known as one of the most haunted places in Michigan or the United States, to be honest with you.
They even made a haunted house based off Eloise.
Oh no, they do it. They're doing it this year again.
Yeah, they do it every year, and it's a
They made
huge
it.
like ordeal. You got to pay a bunch of money to get through it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember if it's one of those places though. If you get your money back if you make it through,
No, that was
because there's some
the
of
one in
those out
Pontiac. Yeah, the one in Pontiac. They stopped doing that because a lot of people started making it through. So, but they actually use like
there.
real Hollywood. Yeah, they use real Hollywood effects and things like that. And like it's a big 3-story building. What was it called again?
Man, the one in Pontiac, I cannot remember.
Oh my gosh,
It's been a long, long time since
Erebus. Erebus.
I got it. Yep.
Yeah, it was Erebus. So yeah, they like the first 4 or 5 years they were open. If you make it all the way through, which is like an hour and a half. But if you make it all the way through, you can get your money back without like, shitting your pants or pissing yourself or committing suicide. You get your money back. But like throughout the years, people are like, okay, well, you're not making any money because everybody's starting to walk through it and be like, it's a piece of cake. So no, it's like $40 a person. So you take it like a date out there and everything else. It's $100 night all day long.
Yeah, and Eloise, like Eloise, I've been to Eloise, but it's been a long time since I've done it.
Mhm.
They've probably gotten way better at it, with
Oh
technology,
yeah.
makeup, and special effects and whatnot. But like it was terrifying, 15 years ago when I was
Oh,
going.
absolutely. And now there's movies. Actually, the movie's called Eloise. She
Yes.
was the little girl, the daughter of the owner. Who when you walk into Eloise Asylum, there's a giant old Victorian picture of Eloise, who's the daughter. So that's who it's named after. But yeah, now there's a movie called Eloise. It's actually pretty good. Uh, there's I went 2 years ago to a book signing for my good friend Nicole Buchamp. She's a writer, paranormal investigator, spiritual healer, does tarot cards, stuff like that. She's a great woman. Love her to death. So I went there for a book signing, and they actually had some of the characters for like what they do for the Halloween haunted house were there, and you had like this woman on stilts, and she was like 7'5", scary as shit. I got pictures and stuff taken with her and stuff, but I went there for the book signing and took a whole bunch of pictures of the McKay building, and then I drove down because about I'd say about a half mile down the road is the Potter's Field, where they say there's over 7,000 people buried from Eloise there. Now, you can't see the gravestones or anything, it's all overgrown. But in the middle of this field, which you can't get access to, it's all fenced in, which is, again, right next to Gangon Cemetery. But there's a giant cross, a crucifix right in the middle of the field, but you can't see any of the tombstones. Now, the tombstones are just numbers, no
Oh,
names, no nothing. You had 172, 223, 341, whatever. But there's upwards to 7,000 people plus buried there who all died inside the walls of Eloise Asylum. So that would be a great place to, if you ever were able to get access to. But
man, that's whew, wow.
yeah, yeah,
Chills,
it's one of those
man.
places.
Now, what is the most absolute like fucked up thing that ever happened to you on an investigation? Like, have you ever been threatened? Like, has anybody ever like grabbed you and said, "Get the hell out of here if you know what's good for you," or anything like that? Like anything crazy?
No, but would it be weird if I said I kind of wanted it to happen? I would love to have something like that happen. I would love to be grabbed and just thrown against the wall. I mean, then you know what? I'm done. I can retire. Like that's all the proof I need right there. But
Right,
no, nothing like that has ever like I've been touched. I've been grabbed, of course. I've felt things. I've seen things that obviously can't be explained and you can't scientifically debunk it. Like there's just no way. But um, I was actually just mentioning this to my coworker the other day. Her name's Paulette, and she's really into this kind of stuff. She's got some pictures. She actually showed me some of the pictures that she's taken. I told her as a paranormal investigator, and she's like, "No way, that's so cool." She's like, "Check this out." And she goes through her phone, like, blah 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 blah. I was like, "Wow." I was like, "You got a lot of stuff." She's like, "Yeah, I love this shit." So I was like, "Okay." So I told her the story anyway. I was at the Linden Hotel, and there's a place upstairs. Now, mind you, this is the oldest continuously running operated place in Michigan. Like it's ancient. So they've they kept the upstairs, but they call it the crow's nest now. So me, my dad, my ex, everybody else, we went up there. I've been there twice now, and they've got a big thing when you walk inside the doors. There's pictures, framed pictures of like the spirits and the ghosts, and they're all Civil War spirits and stuff like that that they've actually captured while they were remodeling the upstairs. Now, mind you, when you remodel something, that really stirs the spirits up. It really does. So they've got pictures, they got history. It's been on, TV, all this other stuff. News channels have come out and investigated and saw stuff. So I finally, after like years of trying, was able to go investigate this place. So here I am, like a kid in a candy store. I invite my dad, my ex is with me, that kind of thing. We go upstairs to the crow's nest. Now it's all original, but there's a bar up there and stuff, and they've added to it. So knowing like the history of the place, it's a Civil War train stop. There's a train tracks right there. People would go there and they would stay for the night, and then hop on the train and go back and travel. And there was obviously the pictures of the Civil War spirits that were there. So what we did, my dad and I jumped on my phone and went to YouTube and looked up old battle songs from like the Civil War or
right.
the right and played them through our phone, maybe try to stir up some energy. So stuff that they were familiar with and old, just like old, bugle, you know,
Right,
like
right.
drummer boy type stuff. Like, yeah, just old Civil War music. And then we'd stop and we'd be completely quiet. Just like you could hear a pin drop. We're just sitting there. We wait, we wait, we wait. Mind you, digital recorders are going. I've got like a REM pod over here in the corner, uh, thermal camera over here. We're doing our thing and we're not getting anything. Nothing's happening. So I'm like, all right. So we do it again. We play a couple more songs and we ask some questions about some of the people who had died there because we did get some history about some people who died. And we go through. Dad gets tugged on. There was some ruckus in the bathroom. I can't explain it. Don't know what it was. Um, get back home and go over the audio evidence after we play the music. and you hear like full blown conversations between one guy and another guy, and they're both different vocal tones. He's sitting here talking about this, and this guy's responding with whatever he asked. And then, like an hour later, through the digital recording, Civil War music, but it's not our Civil War music. You could hear it clear as day.
No
Like
shit.
it was like, when you put a record on, you get that crackle that
Yep, yep, yep.
sounded just like that. And it was like something that we did not play. And it's civil. I've got like 30 seconds of Civil War music being played in the background. And that is not, ours was loud and vibrant because it was right next to my digital recorder. You know what I mean?
Right.
This was like, wasn't even going at the time. So you get Civil War music and you got a guy communicating with another guy right after I hit stop on the Civil War music. So that to me blew my mind. My dad was like, he turned a sheet of white. He didn't realize. He's like, holy shit. I can't believe like we got that. And and here's the cool thing too, is because we present the evidence to the owners afterwards.
Oh
You know what I
wow.
mean? Yeah. So we sit down and I got like a little case log or case file. I'm like, this happened at such and such a time. And if you listen to this, because I had my laptop, I was like, this is the audio recording from, 11:30 at night upstairs in the crow's nest, or this is, whatever. So we present them with this evidence, pictures that we took, all that stuff. So they're just blown away. So we went back about 2 years later and did the same thing. Place was not as active the second time. It was still, fun and active, but it just, didn't get the same vibes that we did the first time that we went. So, but that would be one of the places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's see here. Because the most terrifying one is probably not your most favorite. What's your most favorite investigation you've done, and why is it your favorite?
Probably the USS Edson in Bay City, Michigan. It's a old Vietnam warship,
Okay.
and it's actually a history museum. So it's actually just parked there like on the river, so you can go in and you can explore, and it's like it's a museum. So I'm good friends with Anne LaFave. She runs SAPS, it's Saginaw Area Paranormal Systems. So we'd been friends with her for a little while, and I communicated. And once again, like, want to take my dad somewhere. I keep doing this stuff for him. You know what I mean? So I want to take him somewhere. I'm like, well, let's go to the USS Hudson. Plus he's he was a veteran, and I thought he would like it. So we go there. But when I filled out the paperwork and talked to Anne, I was like, well, we're a paranormal team. You're like, I'd like to go there and maybe run some equipment. She's like, oh fuck yeah. Well, not knowing at the time, she ran SAPS, Saginaw Area Paranormal Systems.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we went there and we investigated and had a great time. And then, like 6 months later, I get a phone call and it's Anne. She's like, hey, she's like, I was wondering if you want to come back down to Bay City. Now mind you, it's an hour and a half drive. But she's like, there's a group who wants to interview you from some of the pictures and stuff that you took and posted online. I was like, okay, well, it's from, uh, Haunted Saginaw with Steve Shippey, aka Prozac. You've seen him on Travel Channel, all that stuff. So we've become good friends. So anyway, I didn't know that was him at the time. So I go there and I'm sitting down, I'm talking with Ann, shooting the shit. We're in the bunk hall. And all of a sudden, right behind me, here comes Steve Shippey. I'm like, holy shit. Like, borderline celebrity. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right.
cool as hell.
You
Like,
fanboy out for a minute.
right. Yeah, man. So I'm like, I've seen all your shows. I watched all your movies. Like, shook his hand. And we did an investigation together. So we got to run the whole place, power off. They're following me with a film crew, cameras, the whole 9 yards. I go down to like the cellars and the bunk vents and like all this other stuff. So to me, that place just kind of holds a special place in my heart. Like I love it. I've gotten a lot of activity there. Obviously, I got really good visual evidence to the point to where, a Steve Shippey's reaching out and talking to me and be like, hey, dude, like come back for an interview. We'll film you, blah, blah, blah. And LaFave's reaching out to me. So that place, I love that. I'll go back anytime. Like they called me today, I'd be like, I got to go. Like,
Nice.
good podcast. I'm out.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
That's dope, dude. Now, before we close it out or whatever, there's a couple things I want to go through, but this is one of them. Uh, you said you brought some stuff home with you,
Yeah.
from investigations, but has anything ever come home with you from investigations? Like, has anything ever been in your house where you might have been sleeping or just kind of hanging out where like something came and fucked with you?
You know what? I told you about Vegas last year. on the last
Yes.
podcast. Yeah, that was fucked up. That was probably the worst experience I've ever had in my life, and I still to this day can't explain it. I went to Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum, and it was like the worst 2 week stretch of my life. I mean, and I'm not just like saying this to say it or just to like, oh, look at me. I don't know what the fuck it was, man. But it was, I told you, like, I had that dream where the demons chewing. I could feel it chewing on my skull. Like, I woke up crying in tears. We like cleansed the house. I'm taking like baths with all this flipping Epsom salt shit. I don't know what the fuck it, dude. It was bad. It was horrible. It was horrible. I was not myself. I told you, we came home and there was like 10 cats in my fucking tree. We're taking the luggage out the back door. Like, dude, for no reason. Never seen a cat in my fucking life in that tree. But there's all of a sudden 10 cats in the tree as soon as I get home. Like, I'm angry, I'm disgruntled, I'm pissed off, I'm wanting to break stuff, I'm like yelling at people, and I'm having just terrifying nightmares. Finally it left, whatever it was. But that was a whole other thing, which again I mentioned last year on the podcast. But
Yeah.
I've never brought home anything like home. Um I've felt attachments and things like that while being on an investigation, but I've always kind of done like a cleansing prior to me, like you're not welcome to come with me, cleanse myself, you're not welcome here, that kind of thing before I leave. Please stay. You know, you kind of do like this little ritual of like, you're not welcome to come with me, you need to stay where you're at kind of thing. Because it does happen. It really does happen. And like again, like what we mentioned earlier, like I'm bringing home little trinkets from haunted places and stuff. Well, spirits and things like that attach themselves to that kind of stuff. So maybe I have brought home some things, but it just hasn't affected me, in the ways that you may
Not like
think or
the
see.
Vegas thing.
Not nothing like that. I'll never do that again. Like I love Zach Bagans. I love the museum. It's fantastic. It's the scariest place on earth. The most haunted place on earth, no doubt. Um, I am a little sensitive to things. I understand that, and so was my ex at the time. But everything from what I even told you, like getting on the plane, the fuselage, there was a fuselage issue. There was nothing but rain and wind the entire way back. It was just like from leaving Zach Bagan's Haunted Museum all the way back home, dude, was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. I thought I was gonna die in the plane. Then I get home. There's 1,000 cats in my trees. I get home. I'm angry, pissed off, breaking things, and I'm having these nightmares. I'm crying in my sleep. It was absolutely terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
Oh man, that's woo.
Yeah, man. I don't, never again, never again.
Now to close it out, because it's Halloween season and this show's coming out on Halloween,
Yes, sir.
give us the top 5 most terrifying movies that people need to be watching.
Okay.
Terrifying, like ones that
Terrifying.
terrifying.
Okay.
Yeah, those
Absolutely
ones.
terrifying. Terrifying, terrifying. Um, I have a lot. Obviously, my list is probably like in the hundreds, but it is, man. It's bad. Terrifying in terms of like blood gore, or like terrifying as in like, holy shit, I can't believe they went there.
Either or, you pick your poison, man.
All right.
Both.
In no particular order, I'd be like the remake of Hills Have Eyes in 2007. That was a violent, gory movie with there's rape scenes and like
That was fucked up. I
it
saw
was
that.
bad.
That was
It was bad, dude. It was very dark and very bad, and you kind of felt gross afterwards. You know what I mean? It's one of those kind of movies. Let's see what else. I've been a big fan. I love the Lazarus Effect. I don't know if you ever seen that or not.
I have seen that.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
a good fucking movie, and that kind of shit could happen. You know what I mean? Not
Yes.
that it has, but it could. Um, I'll go traditional, and I'll go like the Trick or Treat that came out in 2007 as well. It's fun, but it just reeks of Halloween. You know what I mean? It's a go-to every single year. You have to watch it around this time every single year. I love it. Not necessarily terrifying, but just a fun bloody movie. Um, the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 2009 or 10, I believe.
Yes.
Uh, Fantastic movie, scary as shit. Um, I love the new Halloweens, uh, the Joseph Abad
Zombie
ones.
ones.
Yeah, the Abad ones.
Oh
Yeah,
my god, yeah.
they're so good. They're so good. I love those. I love the Rob Zombie ones. Now that like the first and second, Halloween of Rob Zombie were so violent and so vulgar. He was 7 foot tall, slashed motherfuckers, stabbing bitches, like just breaking bones. It was so
Yeah.
throwing cars at people, lifting up buildings and snapping them over his leg. Like he was just a monster, an absolute monster. So that was very, very, very like I was like where most people are like covering their face and everything else, I'm going, yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Like it was fun. um, obviously again, Rob Zombie, Hills Have Eyes, or not Hills Have Eyes, House of Thousand Corpses,
Oh
gory
yeah.
slasher, retro to like the 70s. Like I love it. I love it. And
Devil's Rejects too, man.
Devil's
That
Rejects.
was a
Yep,
great
yep,
spin-off.
yep. Love it. Love it. So anything with what was it, the Firefly family? You know what I mean? They
Yep.
were all the Fireflies. So yeah, Tiny and Baby and all those like that was fun. Um,
And Sherry
let's
Moon
see.
Zombie's super hot in those movies, just
Oh
saying.
my God, gorgeous. Uh, the Rob Zombie first Halloween. Remember when she was a stripper
Yes.
and Love Hurts was on the radio and she's dancing out there to Love
Yep.
Hurts, and
Yep.
doing her thing in a G string. Yeah, I kind of got hooked. So I ain't
She
gonna
didn't
lie.
age well. I was kind of bummed. She has not
She
aged
didn't. She didn't. Yeah. I mean, I still wouldn't say no, but
well.
but yeah, man. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2007 to 2009, like she was a banger, man. She was absolutely gorgeous. Like, but you're right, she did not age well. She really didn't, unfortunately.
I mean, who am I to talk? I'm not aging well either. So
Yeah,
I guess
look at
maybe
us. We were
I'm
just talking
allowed
about
to
our
say
we were
it.
just talking about our grain stuff. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're not aging well either. The Collector. I love the Collector. The whole Collector series.
I only saw the first one, and that was enough for me. That was
So good. So good. My gosh. One that just came out recently, like 2 years ago. It's called Black Phone with Ethan Hawke. Have you seen that
really.
yet?
Uh-uh.
Oh my God, it's based on a book, and it's not murder, bloody, gory, scary, but it is like haunting, scary, and it's a story about ghosts. So it's called Black Phone. As a matter of fact,
Oh yeah, Mrs. Buds and I will definitely have to watch that because
you have to
her and
check
I
this
love
out.
horror flicks. That's kind of our thing, you know.
You have
It's
to check it out, dude. It's fantastic. Anything with the Saws, the new Smile series, I'm kind of digging a little bit. Then part two is coming out here real soon. It's
okay.
called Smile. Um, I mean, again, I could sit here for 37 hours and just tell you all of them. I've got behind me, you keep seeing me look this way. I've got a DVD rack of nothing but horror movies. So I need to be reminded sometimes, like, what's my favorite? So I keep doing this. You know what I mean? So
That's
yeah, I'm looking.
awesome, man.
Yeah, man. So
That's
they're right
awesome.
behind me, but I can go on for days. But yeah, definitely check this one out. It's not bloody gory. It's not like it's fucking it's psychologically terrifying.
That's my jam right there.
Yeah, she'll love it. Your wife will love it. She'll absolutely love it.
So, Mike, to close it out, how can we find you, dude? Like, where can we find your Highland Paranormal Research? Where can we
Okay.
find you? Whatever, man.
I'm on Facebook at Highland Paranormal Research. Uh, just as I said it, Highland Paranormal Research. You can find me on Facebook. Instagram is HPR underscore 48357, which is the zip code for Highland, 48357. So HPR at 48357. And HighlandParanormalResearch.com. So you can find me online as well. Um, yeah, those are my three main, you know, communicate, talk to me. If you got something going on, you think a place is haunted, your house is haunted, whatever the case may be, and you're local, within reason, I'll come out and check it out for you and that kind of thing. But yeah, you can find me on those three platforms all the time.
That's awesome, dude. My friend, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, man, I
This is
love you.
a yearly
Continue.
thing. It's like a tradition, dude. I love what you're doing. Hopefully, we can
Absolutely.
go on another investigation that
We will
actually
set it
happened.
up and I will put it in stone and I won't mess with somebody who's like, I got to go to the hospital or I got to do this or like got a flat tire. Like it's just, yeah, man, it's going to happen. But like, I'm kind of thinking like with, how things have happened the last couple of years, how we haven't been able to, that the next one's going to be flipping baller. You know what I
I
mean?
love that. I want to leave. I want to go to one of those things and literally have shit in my drawers when I leave. Like
Yeah,
I
dude.
want to
Yeah.
be so terrified I shit my pants. One of
I
those.
want to reek of feces by the time I come back. Yeah. Yeah. With 3 loads of laundry. Absolutely, man. So, hey, God bless. I appreciate everything. And thank you again for having me on. I look forward to it every year, man. It's always something special.
Till next time, y'all. Happy Halloween. Be good.
Happy Halloween.